What if I told you there is a group of people in Europe that have always wanted their own country, but never got it? Maybe a few examples popped into your mind, but I want to talk about one in specific. They have their own ethnicity and language, spoken over by 250,000 people. They were even present as a delegation in the peace conference of World War I, and a draft map was made of what their potential country could look like. This is the story of the Aromanians and their would-be country of Terra Vlachorum, also known as Samarina. So first, who are these people? The Aromanians are an ethnic group native to the southern Balkans. They speak Aromanian and Eastern Romance language. They traditionally live in South Albania, northern Greece, and North Macedonia, as well as Western Bulgaria. In fact, the over 250,000 people that speak Aromanian today live mostly in these places, the majority in Greece. Many of them also live abroad throughout the world as a part of the Aromanian diaspora, due to their ancestors leaving the great Aromanian capital of Moscopole, today a small village, but at times one of the greatest cities in the Balkans, rivaled only by Constantinople, but destroyed by Ali Pasha in 1788. Aromanians are known by other names too. Some call them Vlachs, other Macedo-Romanians. The latter is perhaps justified by the fact that they live exactly in the area of the Jiresek line, an imaginary line that shows where Latin, Greek, and then later Slavic influences meet in the Balkans. The language is, in fact, as you can probably tell by the name, very similar to Romanian itself. Both evolved from Vulgar Latin, spoken by people in the region after the Romanization of the area during the Roman Empire, and their ethnonym of Aromanian precisely derives from the Latin Romanus, meaning Roman citizen. It was coined by Gustav Weigand, a German linguist, in his book titled Die Aromanians from 1813. While Vlach was an exonym used mostly by Greek people during medieval times to refer to these people, it meant something like shepherd for the Greeks at the time. In fact, this depiction from 1899 shows us an Aromanian man dressed as a shepherd. And interestingly, the word also meant bandit or rebel for the Ottomans, a name that was also mentioned in Byzantine chronicles from the 13th century, such as the Strategikon of Kekaumenos or even Anakomemnes Alexiad, where they are described as living in the area of Thessaly. Many other sources list Thessaly as another main city of a little Vlachia. This map of 1265 shows us that, connecting it culturally to the larger Wallachia up north, roughly where Romania is today, perhaps confirming the connection between them. And all of these pieces of information about them, their main city destroyed in 1788, the study of their name in 1813, and most of all the record of what they were called in the medieval period shows us something. They've been around for a long time. So how did they get here? Most scholars have assumed that Vlachs are descendants of Roman soldiers or Latinized native populations of the Balkans. Some Romanian scholars claim they were part of a Dacian-Romanian migration from the north of the Danube River in around the 7th century, while Greek ones claim they descend from Roman legionnaires that married Greek women. The true origin is uncertain, but a genetic study from 2006 showed that current Aromanians are genetically indistinguishable from other Balkan populations. Most likely, a combination of both stories is true, with a complete mix of these people with the locals having taken place by modern times, but their identity still remains. In the 19th century, as other national movements began in the Balkans, seeking independence from the Ottoman Empire, a distinct Aromanian national identity awoke too. and it was difficult for that identity to form. They were looked upon as Eastern Romans, they practiced Eastern Orthodox Christianity, and they were culturally Hellenized. In fact, the first book written in Aromanian was written in the Greek alphabet. By the late 19th century, however, the Latin element of their heritage began to be explored in a series of pamphlets and books. In 1815, the Aromanians of Budapest requested permission to use their language in liturgy, but it was turned down by the local mayor, but it proved that something was happening. However, the establishment of a distinct Aromanian national consciousness was hampered by the tendency of the Aromanian upper classes to be absorbed in the dominant surrounding ethnicities and espouse their respective national causes as their own. I think it's like everything else. The Great Divide isn't that much about ethnicity or about sex, it's about social class and money. Now, speaking of that Aromanian upper class, they were probably people that had a good amount of money. And I don't know how they kept money back then, what wallets looked like at the time, but I do know what the best wallets are if you want to use them today. Ekster wallets, our friend and sponsor for this video. Guys, Ekster has the coolest wallets and bags you have ever seen. They are #1 in the world and already have 1 million satisfied customers. They were nice enough to send over some of their products for me to use, and I gotta say, I don't think I'll ever go back to other wallets after this. Their card holder especially is fantastic. I mean, look at the way these cards slide up when you need to use them. If you like the more traditional look, they've got you covered too, with these other open and shut wallets that offer extra slots, as well as a place for your bills. On top of everything, they also have an incredible tracker card that you sync up with your phone, put in your wallet, and make it so that you're able to track it at any time. So, if you also want to try out the coolest wallet ever, go to partner.ekster.com/general knowledge, use the code knowledge at checkout to get an extra 10% off and up to 30% off until May 19th. And now let's get back to the video. Those upper-class Aromanians were so ingrained with the local cultures that a lot of Balkan historiographies named them as the best Albanians, the best Greeks, or the best Bulgarians, leading to researchers calling them the chameleons of the Balkans. Consequently, many Aromanians played a prominent role in the modern history of Balkan nations. The revolutionary Pitougali, the Greek prime minister Ioannis Koletis, a Greek magnate called Georgios Averov, a Serbian prime minister, Vladan Đorđević, or the Patriarch of Constantinople, Athenagoras I, among many others. But even them couldn't suppress the will of some Aromanian people. As Romania became independent, it began sponsoring cultural and educational networks in the southern Balkans, focused mostly on these people. As a result, the Aromanians split into 3 main factions, one being pro-Greek, another pro-Romanian, and a third smaller, focusing on their unique identity that mixed the 2 cultures. The Macedonian struggle, a local conflict that took place in Ottoman Macedonia between 1893 and 1912, saw a series of military conflicts between Greeks and Bulgarians, and it's a perfect example of the struggle between Aromanian factions, as one sided with the Greeks and the other with the Bulgarians. As Vienna and Budapest had been the main destinations of the Aromanian diaspora after the destruction of Moscopole, the Austro-Hungarian Empire also became an advocate of their identity. In 1905, with Austrian and Romanian support, they became a distinct entity within the Ottoman Empire, gaining freedom of worship and education in their own language. Many claim that this came too late, as the people were already divided in these factions, and none of them seemed to really want autonomy. Gustav Weigand has a quote from 1897 stating, "Most Aromanians are not only indifferent, but actively hostile to their own national movement." Nevertheless, the movement existed, and with the outbreak and ending of World War I, it was going to see some more developments. As the Central Powers were defeated, the Entente began to meet in Paris to discuss the peace terms and the reorganization of the world's map. one of the key items on the agenda was the support of several movements that seeked their own independence. They wanted, especially the Americans, that the new borders would be drawn along lines of national identity and ethnicity. And so, seeing this as an opportunity, an Aromanian delegation joined the negotiations in Paris. They called themselves the National Committee of the Pindus and had the aim of establishing an independent, or at least autonomous, Aromanian entity, flying an interesting flag in all white with a set of blue lines creating a rectangle and circle. I feel like I've seen this pattern somewhere, but I can't remember where, so if you know, just leave a comment. They proposed this map depicting a territory in what is now northern Greece, as well as part of North Macedonia and Albania. The country would be called the Samarina Republic, or the Republic of the Pindus. It followed the attempt to create an Aromanian canton under Italian protection still during the war. At the time, the Latins had occupied part of this region, and they kind of incentivized the Aromanians to seek out their Latin heritage in order to gain their support. However, when they declared independence in 1917, they sought Italian support, and the Italians didn't want to follow through. They withdrew their troops, and the Greeks retook the regions. Essentially, neither the Italians nor the other Entente powers cared enough to make a stand for them, and other Balkan nations wanted the territory for their own. All of this paired with the fact that the majority of Aromanians themselves either didn't care enough about the national movement either, or actively opposed it, and so the would-be country of Samarina failed to exist. After World War I ended, Romanian involvement declined, but during World War II, as the Axis occupied Greece, Italy again encouraged Aromanian nationalists to form their own entity under Italian protection. A new Principality of Pindus was declared, existing between 1941 and 42, and flying an awful-looking flag. But as soon as it was declared, Italy, Germany, Romania, and Calabrinist Greece all opposed it. The Axis wanted the Aromanians to mobilize in the favor of the Axis, not in their own favor, and so the Principality of Pindus failed as well. In modern times, the Aromanian identity continues to exist. Over 200,000 people of their descent live in Albania, maybe up to 300,000 in Greece, and all around the Balkans and the world, 250,000 people speak the language. This map of the southern Balkans shows us where they live today, with many pockets still existing in the region they once claimed as their own country. But they've essentially all adopted whichever dominant national culture exists where they live, sometimes holding at most a dual identity. Examples of Aromanian cuisine can still be found in specific dishes, like mezzovon, an Aromanian cheese. They have their own type of music, literature, and traditional clothing, but it seems that, at least for now, the fight for the independent country that never was is at least put on hold. But hey, in 2001, 30 Aromanian mayors signed a protest resolution against the human rights situation in Greece. So who knows, maybe one day Aromanians will try to become their own country again. And a new republic of Samarina or Vlachia will be born in the Balkans. We all know they could use one extra country to argue about. So that is the European country that never existed. What do you think about this? Should it have existed? Do you know of any other ethnic groups that wanted to be independent but failed to achieve it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much to my patrons for their direct support, and thank you to you for watching this video. Remember to subscribe if you want to catch future ones, and I will see you next time for more general knowledge. Okay, the Moomin Cup today. It's really bright. It's the ghosts. They're having a tea party, and then a bunch of people are like, woo, woo. I don't know. I think I need to lower the blinds a little bit because a couple videos ago I got a comment, which was very nice, of somebody saying, oh, the lighting setup is really good. Which lights do you use? I use the sun. It's a window. It's very well positioned, so that's very good, but it's just a window.